Trees in outer wilds aren't just a source of oxygen. The speed they grow at makes them the biggest danger on Timber Hearth. And the game hints on this constantly, it just never says it outright. And once you connect the dots, you won't look at Campfires the same way again. This video contains major spoilers for Outer Wilds. If you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend you stopping here and coming back only after you finish the game. Let's start with the strongest piece of evidence, the emergency tree seeds. When we find Feldspar, he is sitting in a pocket of Timber Hearth trees. These trees are producing oxygen. Both Feldspar and the hatchling can breathe the air just fine. And as you can see, they are already fully grown. On Earth, growing trees like that would take decades. Feldspar hasn't been there that long. He casually mentions that he planted his emergency tree seeds. And that only makes sense if those trees grow fast. An emergency kit that takes years to work isn't an emergency kit. The game is pretty clear. Travelers carry seeds that can rapidly grow into oxygen-producing trees. Okay, so trees grow quickly. But how quickly? Let's compare it to Earth. If you cut down a tree, you can estimate its age by looking at the rings at the stump. Each ring typically represents 1 year of growth. Trees in outer wilds have the same kind of rings. For example, take a look at this stump. And here's the actual texture the game uses. You can count roughly 36 rings, meaning this tree lived for about 36 years. And if these are yearly rings, we have an interesting problem. A year in Timber Hearth, one full orbit around the sun lasts only about 4 minutes, which means this entire tree grew roughly in 2.5 hours. It's not just fast, there is nothing on Earth that grows anywhere near that speed. Even bamboo isn't close to that. And of course, everyone on Timber Hearth is used to this bizarre behavior. For example, when you talk to Tectita near the dark bramble seed, they are not shocked by how quickly it spreads. Alarmed? Maybe because it looks dangerous, but not shocked. And dark bramble itself is a perfect example of how dangerous plant life can be in this universe. That's why Tectita suggests calling in the tree keepers, Marlon Hall, to deal with it. For them, this is routine. Which kinda raises a question, why does this tiny planet need multiple tree keepers? Well, because uncontrolled plant growth is extremely dangerous. Plants in outer wilds produce a lot of oxygen, honestly enough to be a topic for a whole separate video. Just a few trees can create a breathable atmosphere. Even this small patch of grass inside a ship is enough to keep the hatchling alive. So what happens if an entire planet is covered in them? It's hard to quantify how much oxygen they would produce, but clearly a lot. And the more oxygen you have, the easier everything burns. And at this point, everything becomes dangerously flammable. During the Carboniferous period, Earth had significantly high oxygen levels due to dense forests, making wildfires far more intense and destructive. Now imagine that, but with trees growing constantly. At this point, a single spark could burn down the entire planet. To prevent that, Hall and Marl work as tree keepers, carefully controlling what grows and where. There can't be too many trees, or everything becomes a fire hazard. But there also can be too few, or you run out of oxygen. So, trees only exist in tightly controlled areas, exactly where Hearthians need them. And the rest of the planet is almost completely tree-free, and that's clearly intentional. But trees aren't just a threat, they're an essential part of life on Timber Hearth. Everything here is made of wood. Every structure, the launch platform, even the ship itself. Which makes sense. Wood is a perfect building material, but you have to be mindful of one serious downside: fire. On Earth, entire wooden cities have burned down because of it. So it's reasonable to assume that Hearthians have faced similar disasters at some point. And you can actually see that reflected in how cautious they are about fire. For example, Rutile, the mayor, sleeps with a bucket of water next to them. Just in case. Tectita is on fire watch, constantly scanning the planet with the little scouts to make sure nothing is burning. And the village itself is built around an active geyser that regularly sprays water across the area, reducing the risk of fire. So, for Hearthian, trees and fire are deeply connected. They even named their planet Timber Hearth, literally combining wood and fire. But what if fire isn't just a threat? What if fire is the solution? When wood grows this fast, you can't possibly use all of it for construction. You need to have a simple way to get rid of it. And what's simpler than burning it? And once you start looking for it, you realize campfires are everywhere. In the village, on the moon, next to every traveler. All the time, something practical like these fires starts to become deeply rooted in the culture. Spending your last night before lunch by the fire, roasting marshmallows together. But originally, they were a practical solution to an overgrowth problem. At the very end of the game, we sit around a massive campfire in the middle of the forest. And after everything we've talked about, this image starts to feel a little different. A forest that keeps growing, a fire that keeps consuming it, and a new universe being born out of it. I leave that part up to you. If you come up with an interesting interpretation, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, I got plenty more ideas. Thank you so much and have a nice day. See ya! But originally, they were a practical solution to an overgrowth problem.